So yeah, I'm just gonna use OBS to record everything. I'm gonna use. Oh, you know what? Fuck! It's the Super Bowl. I gotta change my icon.
Oh yeah, today's the Super Bowl. I
Today's
forgot.
today's the Super Bowl. I gotta change my icon to be more appropriate for today. Um, because I said I would do this for the Super Bowl. And so I just gotta change that. There we go.
Pretty fit. Pretty fitting.
Yeah, because I didn't want to go with another week of Argyle. As much as I love Argyle, but we we got to move on. Enough of the
Yeah,
past, man. We got to move on to the future.
yeah. We gotta move on.
Okay. So, anyway. Hello and welcome to Too Many Movies, the podcast where we discuss DVDs, Blu-rays, and even the occasional VHS tape. I'm your host, Hal, and with me here today, PSI. Welcome back.
Hey Hal, it's great to be back here again in your little movie podcast. Back again to talk about more of my film watching journey.
Oh, a bit of an adventure, you would say.
Yeah, it's been fun. I still like movies, but it's been a lot. It's been enjoyable analyzing, criticizing movies more seriously, especially having a letterbox and everything. And especially I do want to plan out doing more reviews, more movie reviews in my YouTube channel. Sure, my YouTube channel I've been singing a lot lately, but I do plan to return to reviews hopefully. But it's been really fun, especially this time around watching something I have no idea about, but I still had fun overall.
Yeah, a bit of an adventure. A Poseidon adventure. Yeah, so it's interesting. We came about this episode because you wanted to do another one. I was like, yeah, let's do another one. And you brought up a point where you said at one point you had noticed I had the Poseidon Adventure on DVD. And I was thinking, yeah,
Mhm.
I do. It's a completely random movie. I just happen to have it. I don't remember how I came across this DVD. It's one of those DVDs that I feel like I know where it came from. Maybe I got it from somebody's house. Maybe I inherited it from a friend. I couldn't tell you. It's been in the collection all these years. It was definitely here
Mhm.
before the first episode of the podcast. It's one of those, you know.
Yeah, it's one of your old collection basically.
Yeah, it's one of the movies that I've been trying to. It's one of those DVDs I try to make the podcast about, and then people are like, "Oh, let's talk about this very popular movie." It's like, no, I want something completely random that nobody knows about, which is unfair a little because the Poseidon Adventure is considered a film classic through reading up on it a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah. I've been researching about it, and it is considered like a cult classic, at least for those who love, one of those disaster films from the '70s, like those that were produced by Irwin Allen, like the Towering Inferno or Airport, those kinds of
There
movies.
was a couple of these, yeah, it seems. But yeah, you suggested let's talk about that, and I realized, hey, there's a whole bunch of Poseidon Adventure movies. Let's
Yeah,
add those.
yeah,
Why not?
yeah. Yeah, I was surprised by that. Like, I thought the Poseidon Adventure, like, I heard about it a little bit. Like, I thought it was an interesting movie. Like, I thought it was an interesting movie. Like, okay, I can get rid of that. We can get rid of that for you. But I didn't realize it was like a franchise for some reason. Like, it had a sequel and two remakes. One of them being a mini series that it's just awful. But I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit.
Yeah. So let's just start off with the very first movie, The Poseidon Adventure, 1972. I have it on DVD. Very standard DVD from the early 2000s. I can't see a year on this. Oh, wait, it says 1998 down here. That makes sense.
Oh.
Yeah, it's one of those old DVDs. I love stuff like this. I love old DVDs like this. But anyway, it's basically, yeah, like we said, it's a disaster movie. So it's an ensemble cast. There's no real main character. There's like arguably a main lead in Gene Hackman being the Reverend character. He's kind of the
you could
mainish character.
you could argue that both Jake Hackman and Ernest Borgnine are like both the protagonists of this
Yeah,
ensemble cast.
but it is mostly, a group of people. Like the movie's more about like the people as a whole rather than it's about Gene Hackman. Um
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. It's also based on a novel by Paul Gallico.
Yep. I noticed that every time I watched a new Poseidon Adventure movie, it said based on the novel by Paul Gallico. I'm like, yep, there we go. Okay. So that's how you can tell they're all connected in a manner of speaking.
Yeah.
I was just going to go over the story. Just the basic plot being that, all this cast of characters is on a boat, it capsizes, and they're trying to escape the boat. It's pretty simple. It's mostly a movie about the events of them leading to the very top, so they can the bottom of the boat, because it's capsized, everything is upside down, so they're trying to get to the very bottom of the ship, which up.
Which I do think in terms of filmmaking, it's an interesting setting to go through, because you don't normally see what could be going through an upside down place. So seeing all those set pieces of the upside boat, like going through the engine room, or the kitchen, it's interesting to look at, honestly, and especially looking at how dangerous everything looks.
Yeah, well, they had to build this set and then put it upside down. Like, they had to plan out how the ship looks right side up and then flip it upside down and be like, okay, that's how the movie's going to be from now on.
Yeah, and according to the movie, especially in the credits, they did base the sets on the Queen Mary boat, actually.
Queen Mary boat. Okay, yeah. I don't know boats, so it's like
me neither. But I'm just trying to be as factual as possible.
It's based off of the SS. Who gives a shit? It's like, okay, cool. No, but
yeah, any boat enthusiast there, you're welcome, I guess.
Yeah, and that's the thing with this movie, is that it's obviously very simple. It's just, the boat capsizes, and then the rest of the movie is just about them trying to get up there and survive this. And it's a lot like other disaster films, where when you really get down to it, the stories are unbelievably simple. It's just people running away from danger, which is fine. That completely works for a movie like this. I think this movie takes advantage of its simplicity and puts all the complexities on the characters and the sets, for sure. Like, the way they filmed some stuff, it was pretty interesting for the early 70s. Pretty awesome seeing a lot of how they achieved certain stuff. Some stuff is dated. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I think when I was first watching the movie, I wasn't really vibing with it. It took me probably 10 or 20 minutes. It was probably after the initial capsizing. Even the initial capsizing, I was more so laughing at the movie, which is really inappropriate. But anybody who knows me knows I will laugh at the most inappropriate things anyway, so this isn't surprising.
I mean that's pretty fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I do admit some parts are a bit dated. I thought the capsizing itself was, it looks a bit dated in some parts, especially with how people fall over going through the walls. But I don't know. I was forgiving it a little bit because it was the 70s. You couldn't do a lot to make it look as super outstanding. But I do think it was pretty decent, at least from how I looked at it. I do admit it was kind of weird how it didn't look like people were getting hurt, like in a sense, like. In a sense, like I'm pretty sure like a remake did make it look like people were getting hurt or suffering from the capsizing. Like, here you can see some people getting hurt, getting damaged from the capsizing, but not a lot, which I guess you can forgive a bit, because the technology was not there to make it look as realistic as possible, I feel like.
Right, but also you have scenes where it's obvious they put the camera on its side and just had somebody walk by it being like, ah!
Yeah.
Which got me every time. It was never not funny. And especially because it doesn't look at all like they're falling. It just looks like they're going across the camera like, ah! And that's it really took me out of it. It's yes, it is the early 70s. They didn't have the technology to really get that to look at its best. When they actually have the people kind of falling down the wall, it looks like they're kind of tilting the room, something like the Inception hallway room. But seeing that achieved maybe in the 70s, it was really cool. Like that's where the effects look their best. It's when people are obviously, I don't know, if they're not walking by the camera, if they're like on a dolly or something and they just walk by the camera and it's they just ride by the camera and it's on its side and they're just like, oh, that's the part where I'm like, come on, dude. Like it was so funny. But I'll give the movie this. Immediately after it's capsized and everything is stopped, it's completely silent. And then people are slowly, ever so slowly, getting back up and realizing what just happened. And they kind of build off of that stunned silence, but then keep going and, start to pick each other up and start to figure out, all right, what do we do next? They take their time in that, and it's really, really effective in the tone. Something
Absolutely.
that, I'll have other things to say about the sequels, but I don't think the other sequels ever really recaptured that magical silence where it was just you're stunned because everybody else in that room is stunned. And so that's where the weight of the fact that the ship capsized came from. Not the initial capsizing, like the weight of it after, where you see people lying on the floor just in their party gowns, dead practically. It's like, holy shit, dude. Okay, now I'm starting to take this movie seriously.
Exactly. I think that's one of the biggest advantages that this movie does. It's that it has a great balance between the use of silence and its music score, which, by the way, is
Yes.
composed by John Williams, basically. So of course
Of
it's gonna sound
course.
great.
Yeah, of course, John Williams. Oh, even in the early 70s, we couldn't escape him.
Of course.
No, I love John
But yeah,
Williams.
yeah, I love it, and the music here was also awesome as well. But what I love is that John Williams didn't need to score everything. Like the movie does know when to be silent because I feel like it understands that with silence you can make you make it feel like the situation is very serious. You get to see the characters reacting, like you're mentioning, like seeing how the dread of the situation they're going through, about if they're gonna survive or not, and going through their emotions and their feelings. This movie really understands well when it's okay to be dramatic in a movie experience kind of way, but also serious in a very human way, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. And especially once the characters were meant to focus on for the duration of the movie, when they start to leave the ballroom because they don't want to be there anymore, they start to leave. Then it's like, okay, now you have a specific amount of characters you want to focus on, and these characters are awesome. Probably the best, because that's the thing with these Poseidon Adventure movies. They have a lot of actors in them. Each one has a lot of actors, and each one has a very impressive cast of actors that you recognize. I feel like this movie, the first one, has the best set of characters specifically.
Absolutely.
I have
I think
actors
it
I
has.
like in the later movies, but I think
I think this one has the better character archetypes in this movie than the other ones.
Yeah, because you definitely by the end care about a lot of these characters, even ones you don't really see for that long a time. You feel sad when they die, like
Absolutely.
So I guess we should probably go through them one by one. And not every single fucking character, but like the majority, the ones we follow along. I think that's how we should frame each movie we talk about, is through the characters. All right, so obviously we got to start with Gene Hackman, Reverend Scott. I like this character a lot.
Oh yeah, I love him.
Yeah.
By the end, I mean I like him, but by the end, I started to love him.
Yeah, Gene Hackman, first of all, is a phenomenal actor. Still going, by the way. He's still alive. Even
he's
today.
95 years old. He's 95 years old right now. Wow.
Yeah, he's still alive. But he is usually a really good actor. I love a lot of his roles in movies. This one is really good because I like this character because he's it's a very different character, I feel, for a main protagonist, where I feel like a lot of protagonists are put there to maybe be the vessel for the audience or to be somebody that needs to learn something. Whereas I feel like Gene Hackman, his character in this, Reverend Scott's character, is he has a set belief or a set system of beliefs, and then he needs to spend the movie kind of playing them out and proving that he truly believes what he believes. And what I mean by that is He's a reverend character. And you can tell by his first scene where he's giving a sermon that he's not your typical pastor, your typical man of God, where it's not that he's like something from The Exorcist, where the point of The Exorcist is the main character of that is really questioning his belief in God. Reverend Scott definitely believes in God, but he believes in God in more of an in more of an active sense, not so more passive. Like, he starts off by saying prayers don't work. You can't just pray to God. You need to actually be active in trying to better yourself. And he spends the whole movie being active, trying to help these people in as many ways as he can. He's being active. He's not just sitting there being like, don't worry, God will save us, or don't worry, somebody will save us. He says, no, we need to be active. In which case, he's proven right pretty much. Like, that the fact that these characters even make it out, the ones who do, is because they were active about it.
Absolutely. I think he's what is called a proactive protagonist, someone that isn't really someone that needs to develop so much, but someone that helps others be able to develop, which I think is something I don't see a lot of recent movies doing, because usually protagonists, like you said, they're just a vessel for the audience, or someone that has to develop. But this is one that it's definitely not perfect. He's definitely flawed in certain ways, like how he treats people. Like, he obviously is he's street and stern with other people, with especially with the other characters, but he does it out of love, because he wants to save them. But which makes him really engaging, because he doesn't falter in his beliefs, even when he's telling him about how he's responsible for something. And then he doesn't like get broke down or anything. He still tries to fight, because he wants everyone else to get saved, especially by the ending.
Yeah, exactly. I not to say that you can't have a character learn a lesson by the end in your movie. It's just, I feel like a lot of movies make it so painfully obvious when a main character acts shitty to other characters, and then by the end they have to learn. It's like, oh, but that's their arc. They have to learn. But when you as an audience member know that there's an arc coming, it makes it pointless, because it's like, all right, I know how this is going to end. So them acting like a piece of shit for the majority of the movie doesn't really seem interesting or entertaining to me. Whereas here, he has a set belief. He's being tested to make sure he actually believes what he's doing, in which case, yes, he does. It kills him by the end, spoiler alert, but he's ultimately proven right no matter what.
Which I could see the argument that, well, what he's always right, and that's not compelling, but like, I feel like there's a point to his character, and it's related to like the sermon where you mentioned it. And it's about his belief in God, where a lot of people say that you have to pray to God so you can have a miracle. Where I actually love his unorthodox beliefs in religion, because it's not just about pray to God not to give them a miracle, but it's about God giving them the chance to be the miracle, in the sense of you actually do yourself doing something. Like, you have to work yourself so you can be able to surpass any obstacle. And that's what I love about Reverend Scott here, because he's actually trying for the other characters to keep continuing, even if some of their loved ones, especially some people that really died in very fucked up ways, they still have to continue, because they do have to keep living. They don't have to just stay there, just wait to just end it all. You have to keep fighting, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a very anti-Christian sentiment, because he's not. He very much is a Christian believer in God. He just has different unorthodox ways of expressing that, which is far more interesting.
Yeah, which is ironic that he's going to Africa, because he was punished for his unorthodox beliefs, and look at that, he's unorthodox, it saved people.
Let's move on to Ernest Borgnine. Mike Rogo, the retired cop character. Ernest Borgnine. For you out there who are young and don't know who Ernest Borgnine is, he was Mermaid Man in SpongeBob. There we go. We got our our way of expressing who these old actors are to the youngins who refuse to watch old movies.
Yeah. And for also you youngins, Gene Hackman played General Mandible, the villain from DreamWorks Ants, for all you youngins out there.
Oh yeah, fucking ants. But Ernest Borgnine, I like this character because he's you've seen this archetype before, the asshole character where he's like being a jackass, but I like this because they kind of subvert it even before I think this was a trope in uh movies or disaster movies. You know the kind of character I'm talking about, the asshole. Even the later movies have the asshole character, which we'll get to. But
Mm-hmm.
this one, I like how they subvert this one because he's not a jackass. He's not a jackass because he's the jackass. He's a jackass because he's a hardened cop and he also has his set beliefs, but here he's being tested into kind of questioning, does he really believe those? And he even starts to understand, maybe I shouldn't be set in my ways. And also he lives by the end, which you never see in asshole characters. Whenever you see a character in one of these movies who just like immediately is a terrible person, they're like one of the first people to die, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
so obvious. Whereas here, he makes it by the end, and that's awesome. Because you actually are happy that he makes it by the end, even though he's been kind of a dick the whole movie. But also, he's entertaining as the dick in the movie. That's a huge, huge difference between a lot of asshole tropey characters in movies.
Yeah, like Ernest here is pretty entertaining. All his over to the top reactions, his mannerisms, his dialogue, is just, even when he's being an asshole, you just cannot help laughing at it because it's just so engaging and funny. But also you can kind of understand where he's going through, or his point of view, and that makes it really really great, honestly.
Yeah. So I like his character a lot. I think he definitely wins you over by the end. It's awesome. Um
Mhm.
Red Buttons plays Mr. Martin, who's a very interesting character, I must say, because they kind of start off kind of implying how he's like this. I guess I kind of understand what they were going for with him, where he's this single guy, and they're like, oh, you have so much to live for, you still need a wife, and he's like, I'll get one someday, I just haven't had the time. And then you go through this horrible capsizing event. It's like, well, now I want him to make it out because he needs to live that good life. He does.
Mhm.
um
Yeah, definitely he does.
yeah, but it is interesting seeing him kind of form a relationship with Nani, the other character, the character he
Yeah.
most definitely interacts with the most. And I forget, she makes it out by the end, right?
Yeah, Nani, I think she does escape,
Yeah.
thankfully. Nani is kind of interesting because I mean, she's very scared of escaping because her brother dies, which, that's bad,
Hmm.
but bad, that's bad. But I do think that she was kind of damsel in distress, like she gets scared all the time, which I get it. Like her brother died, but I don't know. I felt like there was more to. I wish there was more to her, but I'm too glad she was able to. I'm glad that Mr. Martin was able to help her to move on, to be able to help her to escape, and I'm glad she made it out after all of that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not bothered by her damsel in distress. I guess you could argue it's damsel in distress, but like, I don't know. Yeah, she's the one who's experienced a lot of trauma, and she doesn't know how to deal with that. You're going to have people who don't know how to deal with something like this. So I'm not
Hmm.
bothered by that. Maybe some people would complain, it's like, "Oh, the typical woman character." It's like, "Okay, but we have other female characters in the movie who don't act like that." So,
Yeah. So yeah. Which yeah. When you put it that way, it made sense. It made sense, actually. I mean, she was pretty funny, and I do like her reaction sometimes when she screams when the water is coming. That was kind of funny, honestly.
yeah. Um, we got to talk about Roddy McDowell, Mr. Akers, real quick,
Hmm.
because he doesn't get a lot because he is the first one to die. Of the characters who make it out of the ballroom, obviously the ballroom scene is a staple of the Poseidon Adventure movies, because after everything's been capsized and people are like, okay, we need to escape now, then you have the purser acting all high and mighty, being like, "Oh, you guys can't leave. We need to stay here," which I realize more and more is kind of a dumb idea. The fact that each movie had a scene like that where you have somebody being like, "No, you can't escape. It's dangerous up there." It's like not much better down here. Ironically enough, we'll get to it with the miniseries remake specifically. I think that handles that the best. Truly thinking about it, but we'll get to it when we get to it. But anyway, obviously then the whole ballroom floods because duh, it's upside down. The windows can't hold all the water the whole time.
Like obviously these types of boats can, at least from back, especially from back then, can resist being underwater that much, or else everything bursts. So
yeah,
obviously everything will get floated.
Yeah, it is a great scene though, because then it just floods and you see all these people just drown. It's brutal. It's great. PG movie, by the way. All these people fucking drown and they're screaming.
Yeah, and especially all the panic people trying to reach the Christmas tree, but because of the
so
weight
good.
of all the people, the tree just falls down on them, and now they have no way to escape, and it's so morbid.
Yes, and they prop up the Christmas tree, and that's when all the main characters get to climb it up. And then when the water starts coming into the ballroom, everybody starts climbing up it, but it's too heavy, so it tips over. Yes. Oh, it's so brutal. I love it. But anyway, back to Akers, because he is the character who dies first, Roddy McDowall's character, because he has a broken leg, and it's when they're climbing up. I believe. What are they climbing up? They're climbing up. I believe it's. I don't know if it is one of the funnels of the boat. Maybe that's what they're climbing up.
Yeah, they're climbing like one of the funnels or one of the bands. I'm not so sure, but I don't know much about boats.
Again, we're the last people to know about boats. But anyway, he's climbing it up, but then all of a sudden he just falls over. It admittedly is also another one of those funny 70s-ism where he's just kind of still and he just falls back and goes, and falls. And it's like, oh, he's out of the movie now. But you know what? For what little he has, I do like Roddy McDowall as an actor, and he does fine. But it is sad.
He was very good. Yeah, it's honestly depressing to see him die because I mean, to be fair, he does appear a little bit when he sees Nani singing, but he was actually the first one that appears over one of the exits, and he's basically the focal point where he gave them the idea of the idea of giving them the chance to escape.
That's right, because he's up there with the doors, and because the doors are up there because the boat's upside down, he's the only one up there. Yeah.
That's when Reverend Scott got the idea of taking the recently fallen down Christmas tree to use it as a stairway to reach the exit.
Yeah, exactly. So R.I.P. Akers. rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
We got to talk about Linda, Stella Stevens' character, the wife of Mike Rogo. The prostitute wife. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's actually a funny. It's like I was really surprised by that little backstory in the beginning. That is so funny. Like, she was a former prostitute and she was being arrested by Mike Rogo several times, and yet they fall in love and marry. Like, that's such a funny story, actually.
Yeah, exactly. She's a lot of fun because she's the sassy prostitute character. Except she's not a prostitute no more. I like at the beginning how she is scared she's gonna recognize somebody, and Mike is so nonchalant about it. He's like, "Who cares, dude? Just I love you now."
Yeah.
Sad though, because she does perish because she falls over, which is important because she falls down into the flames. And it's obviously a dummy when you see her down in the flames. But that's a great scene because she's made it this far and she's undone by the ship. I believe the ship shakes and she just falls over into the flames. And that's when Mike is at his breaking point, and that's when he yells at Scott, "This is all your fault. We could have made it. This is all your fault." And that's when Scott breaks and he's completely pissed off. Just goes, all right, that does it. I'm sacrificing myself, and he's yelling at God. It's a really, really excellently acted scene. It's really tense too because there's no music when he's hanging off the valve, and he's just
Hmm.
hanging off, and you just know any second he's gonna drop. And when he drops, it just hits you like, oh fuck, he fell. Not only does he fall into the water, he falls into the flaming water. So you're like, oh, so he's definitely dead.
Yeah, yeah, he's not coming back from that, I'm sure.
Oh, he's fine. But Linda, she's funny. Not as she has her sassy moments, but then yes, her death is very impactful in trying to get trying to get the characters to progress in an
Exactly, because she
unintentional
was
way.
she was almost going to escape with everyone else. So
Yes,
seeing her
yes.
die just by the end point, it just sucks. It just feels fucked up and horrible,
Yeah.
and especially seeing both Mike Rogo and Scott break by the reaction of that.
I gotta be honest though, the death that hits the hardest though has to be Mrs. Rosen, Shelley Winters'
Oh,
character.
oh, absolutely. Miss Rosen, she was the true MVP of the entire cast. Like,
Yes,
holy
yes.
cow. And especially her dad. Like, that was incredibly fucked up, but super impactful. Like, that was incredibly well done. Like,
Yeah.
holy shit.
First of all, Shelley Winters, this might be one of the first movies of hers I actually like her in because I did not like Lolita. I did not like Pete's Dragon. She was in Pete's Dragon. Holy shit. She
Oh
was
god.
in Frosty's Winter Wonderland, the Frosty sequel I care the least about, and fucking Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July.
God damn
Yeah.
it.
Oh, also Red Buttons is in that movie. So what do you know? Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July was a Poseidon Adventure reunion for Red Buttons and Shelley Winters. Uh
Cool.
but yeah, no, first movie. Okay, yeah, this is the first movie I genuinely love that she was in, and she's great. She's funny. She's obviously funny throughout the majority of the movie because she's an old lady. She's a bit on the chubby side, and
Yeah.
she knows it. You know, she's very funny when they're trying to go through like enclosed enclosed parts of the ship, like when they're going through the vents, and she's like, do you expect me to fit in there? And I love when the little kid is like, oh, don't worry, I once pulled like a 600-pound fish with my dad. And then later on he's like, sorry, I compared you to a 600-pound fish. And she's like, is that what you're finding important right now?
Yeah, yeah, I do love that she's self-aware about her about her physics, and she doesn't mind it at all. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, even at first when they were in the ballroom, Miss Rose wasn't even sure if she wanted to escape. Like, she
Mhm.
felt like she will be like a burden or something, which does get developed. Like, at first I wasn't sure about all the fat jokes and all of that, because I've seen like people saying, "Oh, the fat jokes are so annoying," but I feel they have a point to it because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
about Miss Rosen showing her character, like, she feels like she's being a burden, because she feels like she's being a burden to the rest of the characters with trying to escape, and she wants to prove her, and she does kind of want to prove herself that she wants to be helpful, and she eventually does
Oh yeah.
when she proposes to swim to get to the other side to help the others, and then, but everyone is like, no, you can't do that, you get hurt or you're gonna get drowned or something. But even when Scott tries to do it himself, he gets stuck. And so Miss Rosen, nobody tells her to do it. It's like she does it herself to save everyone. That's why
Mhm.
I think she's a great character, because she doesn't mind what everyone says to her. She wants to save everyone, because she believes it's the right thing to do it, which is so admirable.
Yeah, exactly. And she's just trying to get to her grandson in Israel. Along with her
Hmm.
husband, Jack Albertson, Grandpa
Hmm.
Joe
Manny.
from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and
Hmm.
what's his name from Fox and the Hound?
Uh,
Fuck, what the fuck is his name? Fox and the Hound. Amos Slade.
yeah, he played Amos Slade, right?
I know a bunch of our friends are Fox and the Hound glazers, so I wanted to get that right.
Yeah.
um, no, but anyway, yeah, no, I love them as a couple. I think they're quintessential old people. Um, and man, but it hurts when she does die, and
Hmm.
Manny, her husband, Jack Albertson's character, is just
Mm-hmm.
completely wrecked by that. Luckily
Mm-hmm.
he makes it out, which I'm thankful for. Because then, he is able to visit his grandson. Which I know that's getting ahead, but I'm kind of glad we don't see them with their people. We don't see them after the boat, like after they get saved from the boat. Like once
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
saved
like
from the boat,
mm-hmm.
that's it. That's all you need. It's like, yeah, because that's what the focus of the movie was on. You don't need to see them. You don't need to see Jack Albertson go to Israel to see his grandson. It's like, no, we can infer that that's where he ends up. It's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and everybody else, where they want to do, I'm pretty sure they make it all right.
Yeah,
After all.
exactly. But yeah, seeing him just sit next to Shelley Winter's deceased body, just holding it, being like, "I don't want to leave her." You're like, "God damn, Grandpa Joe."
I mean, it was his love of her, it was the love of his life. So
Yeah,
I can understand being distraught by it, especially when they were so close to escaping.
of
Just like
course,
how Mike reacted to Linda's death.
of course. It's
So,
completely. You understand completely.
see, which is glad I'm glad Scott was able to talk to Manny to be able to move on by telling him the last words she gave to Scott, especially the pendant, the I don't know what it's called, a chai pendant, which is something of an Israel tradition or something.
Yeah,
So
it was some Jewish symbol. I'm not Jewish, so I wouldn't know what it is. But
mhm,
they say, I think they say something like it represents life or something like that. I don't remember off the top of my head.
mhm,
But I do remember,
mhm.
yes, they had that necklace and it had like the Jewish symbol on it.
Yeah, I
Not the
think it was
Star of
called
David. It was not the Star of
mhm.
David. That because I
Yeah,
know people are gonna be like, "Oh, is it the Star of David?" No, I don't know what it is.
I think it was called a chai pendant. Again,
Mhm.
I don't know what it is, but that's what its
Yeah.
name. That's what it says on Wikipedia at least.
Right. So, yeah, just a couple more characters I want to go through. I want to talk about the captain of the ship who does die, but in the first 20 minutes, but has a significant role because of the actor playing him. Do you want to say who it is?
Yep, it's Enrico Palazzo himself, Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah, Leslie Nielsen in the first serious role I've seen him in.
Yeah, me too. Well, aside of some clips I've seen from Forbidden Planet, which is one of his first serious roles, yeah, I don't think I've ever seen him in a serious role until this one, when he plays the captain of the Poseidon.
Yeah, what's great is because it wasn't that weird seeing him act all serious because he's acted serious in Airplane and the Naked Gun. That's part of the joke within those movies is him
Mm-hmm.
acting serious and all the crazy shit happens behind him. Um and that's part of the humor of those movies. Whereas here, he's acting the exact same. It's just that, nothing that's happening on screen is necessarily funny. I mean, I'm still laughing because it's old and cheesy and I find that hilarious. But yeah, no, he takes it very seriously. It's a very interesting role for me to see him in, considering I grew up watching Airplane and the Naked Gun. So yeah.
Same as well. It's honestly it's kind of cursing him acting so serious, but to be fair, that just like you say in Airplane Naked Gun, he does act serious, but that's part of the dry
Yes.
humor and jokes of those movies. So it does fit well. And even when he's acting serious, he's also pretty charismatic when he's on the captain's table on the ballroom, when he's explaining the backstory of the ball, like who was Poseidon and all. I feel engaged by him. He's just so charismatic as an actor, even when
Yeah.
he's acting serious or on a comedic role. He's just so great.
He is a very good actor. Yeah, great actor. And we got to talk about the kids. So there's kid characters. There's Robin, the little boy, who knows a lot about the boat. And what's
Mhm.
great is that they're trusting his knowledge of the boat. Because he's just like, oh yeah, they're during the up near the propellers. They're the thickness is only 1 inch of metal, so we can easily get out from there. And
Mhm.
Rogo the whole time doesn't trust him until the very end, where you're like, okay, I see what you meant. Which, yeah, I completely understand. You're going to take advice from a child, but when it's obviously a child who knows a lot about boats, who fucking travels at the beginning in the stormy weather to get inside the captain's quarters, And the captain's
Yeah.
like, "What the fuck are you doing?" He's like, "I want to see the boat," because he's a child interested in the boat. He has this interest in the boat. So it's like, okay, so he's knowledgeable about everything. You know what? When you put a child who's knowledgeable about something, I'm gonna trust them 100%.
I mean, to be fair, many children can be very upset, well, not really obsessive, but very interested in very specific things. So, and I think the scene where he's running around in the storm, when Robin is running around in the storm to checking out all the parts of the boat, it does make sense when he says, "I know a lot about this boat because you did see him going all around the boat, so you can kind of believe that he does know what he's talking about."
Yeah, we have a word for that now. It's called autism. So,
Yeah.
which is good. I mean, the fact that he was knowledgeable, autism saved the day. He was knowledgeable about the boat, and they got out of it in the end. So, thank you,
Hell yeah.
Robin. Hell yeah, Robin. And he's not that annoying, when it comes to children characters in movies, they can be so obnoxious, but I
Oh
was never
yeah.
bothered by him.
Yeah, at first I was still gonna be annoyed by him, especially with his obsession with the ball. But no, they level it down in a very comfortable level where he is knowledgeable, but you can believe him as a character, as a person, because you do understand the struggle that he's going through, and you're glad that he's helping out as he can.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not even bothered by his older sister character. I mean, she is very, not one note. She kind of is, because a lot of her scenes revolve around her having a crush on Reverend Scott. Um,
Yeah, yeah, which is funny because in the first half of the film, she's the very stereotypical naggy older sister. It's like, why do you have when he talks to Robin? Why do you have to be so annoying? Or when she's stuck on the table at the top, it's like when Robin asks, "What are you doing up there?" And she's like, "That's a stupid question."
yeah, it's funny. Yeah, and then obviously later on she follows Reverend Scott because she's like, "I want
Which
to go with
is
you," and she's hugging her, and she's like, "Oh, thank God." Which I'm surprised in the television series remake they kept that in, where they had the teenage character obviously lusting after an adult man, where it's like, really, that's the part you're gonna carry over? Look,
really.
no, look, I get it. Teenagers are horny, and they are horny for people they shouldn't be, but and especially, I mean, that one makes even less sense because it's like, okay, you're obviously putting this in there because the first movie did it. But we'll
Yeah,
get we'll get to
and
that.
even in the original movie, it does kind of believable because
Yeah,
the sister eventually does get scared of the situation. She doesn't know who to get attached to aside of his brother, and when she gets separated from his brother, I mean, it does make sense that she wants to get a little bit attached to Reverend Scott because he's the closest person that actually trusts the most
yeah.
in trying to escape. So
He's
it does
very
kind of make
active,
sense.
and he's also saying a lot of radical stuff. I mean, it was the early 70s, teenagers were radical at the time. When you say stuff that isn't typical, isn't, when it's unorthodox, that's kind of cool. So it's like, even if Gene Hackman is saying it, I don't find Gene Hackman particularly attractive, but the words he's saying are attractive, so I can totally buy that she has a crush on Gene Hackman as Reverend Scott.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, it's pretty much covers all the important characters, I'd say. And again, the whole movie is just them moving from room to room, set to set, to try and get to the top, and occasionally they lose somebody. And again, out of all the movies, this one, whenever a person dies, it hurts the most. Like, even someone like Akers, I feel more for Akers than I do any of the characters in the later movies.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just because the actor himself is charismatic, it's because they have a purpose to the
Mhm.
story. They had a purpose to the story and how the set of events play out. So when you see him die, especially he's after playing the important role he goes through, it hurts a lot.
Totally, totally. Um, is there anything else we have to say about the Poseidon Adventure?
I'm trying to think.
Yeah, because I feel like that it's just one of those movies I'd recommend to people. It's a very solid disaster film. It's one of the more solid disaster films I've seen. Because disaster movies, especially later on when you start getting into the 90s, where it's a lot of it's a very effects driven movie. Something like Twister,
Mhm.
something like even Independence Day, I would even count as a disaster film, even though I really
Yeah.
loved Independence Day. But something
Yeah,
like
yeah, I do love Independence Day. I just feel like they're just more focused on on just looking beautiful and it's extremely realistic or very precarious instead of developing like characters. Like they do develop characters, but it's definitely not their focus, is what I
yeah,
will
but
say.
like Independence Day, I think gets away with it because there's so many other aspects besides the effects. There's a lot of likable characters, a lot of likable actors. Something like Twister, on the other hand, who boy, that one, that was one where because the sequel came out last year, I saw a lot of people revisiting it and thinking, "Oh, I think we were too harsh on this movie." And I thought, "Oh, maybe there's some validity to this." And then I watched it and I go, "Oh, no, this is bad. This is this is it's it's really bad. It's one of those nostalgia critic opinions.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people.
Dog Walker was right.
Yeah, yeah, look, a lot of people love going back being like, "Oh, he was too harsh." And then sometimes I agree with that, but then other times I watch something like Twister. It's like, "No, he hit the nail on the head with this one. What the fuck is this movie?" Ugh, I hate Twister so much. It's so bad.
Yeah, especially the relationship problems. Like, oh, that's so played
Yeah.
out.
But even movies, other Roland Emmerich movies, I grew up watching the movie 2012. That's a very famous disaster
Yeah.
film.
Yep.
Oh boy, that movie sucks.
Yeah. I haven't seen the full movie, but I've seen clips of it, and yeah, it doesn't convince me at all.
It's really bad. I mean, the effects, even though they're obvious, it is really cool seeing buildings fall down. It's look, disasters. They're sometimes they don't lead to interesting movies, but they can lead to some really interesting sequences. That's the thing with this movie is that the titular Poseidon, the actual initial capsizing is not the part that I love the most about the movie. That's, the part in Independence Day that people remember the most. Again, as much as I love that movie, is the part where the White House blows up, when the Empire State Building blows up, when the LA Bank Tower blows up. That whole sequence that happens 40 minutes into the movie. That's the part
Hmm.
people remember the most. I feel like here I'm going to be remembering the characters and their strife after the initial capsizing more because that is partially because the capsizing has aged a bit in the effects department, but also because the characters are actually really well written and the pacing of watching them go through set to set is done very well. And by the end, you're just satisfied by everything the movie had to offer, not just the special effects. And so I
Absolutely.
really want to check out the Towering Inferno now because that's the other big 70s disaster movie. And I want to see if
Yeah,
that one holds up any better.
yeah. I've actually been interested in checking out the other 70s disasters, like the Tower Inferno, like you said, or Airport, or well, I forgot the other ones, but
I
I'm pretty sure they're also pretty
Yeah, I
good.
mean, depending, I want to see if they have aged better than the disaster movies of the 90s or the disaster movies of, I don't know, what was the last big disaster movie that we had?
Moonfall.
Okay, well, nothing's gonna top Moonfall because it's the greatest movie ever made. Um,
It's a master. It's Robert Emmerich's magnum opus.
yeah, exactly. We all love Moonfall on this podcast, every single one of us.
Hell yeah.
Can I talk about this DVD for a little bit?
Yeah, of course.
So, well, there's not much to say. There's not much in terms of bonus features. Again, this is an early DVD, so the bonus features are widescreen format, aspect ratio 2:35:1, interactive menus,
Closed captions.
scene selection, original theatrical trailer, languages, English mono, French mono, subtitles, English and Spanish. Okay, so wait a minute. So you can watch it in French, but no French subtitles.
That's odd.
That is odd. So you can watch it with Spanish subtitles, but you can't watch it in the Spanish language. Interesting.
What if yeah, like what if someone from Canada wants to watch the movie in French and doesn't understand some words and they need subtitles?
I don't know, but it is funny that interactive menus this is the time when you could put, oh, you have interactive menus on the back, and people would just be like, oh, that blows my mind, dude.
Yeah.
Which I want to talk about the menu, like the thing that really I wanted to talk about, because I immediately when I saw it I had to write it down because it was amazing. So on the menu for the DVD, when you select something, there's a ship next to the option that you're selecting. You know how some DVDs will do that, where they have like an icon or something next to what you're selecting. They'll highlight
Mm-hmm.
the words like play movie scene selection. They'll highlight it, but then sometimes they
Mm-hmm.
have an icon next to it, so then you know you're selecting something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, uh, you have a ship like a boat next to what you're selecting. And when you select something, it immediately goes upside down.
Like
Which
like 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 one frame to the other, or it's animated.
no, it's one frame to the other. But the fact that it's a ship that turns upside down when you select something in reference to the fact that the boat capsizes in the movie is hilarious. That is so morbid. I love that. That is so funny. I had to write that down. I wrote it down in my notes. Like I have to mention this. That's the only note I took when watching the movie, by the way. Huh,
Damn.
it was so funny. So I have looked it up that this movie does have a Blu-ray release, standard Blu-ray release. It doesn't, I don't believe it has a 4K yet, which if it
Yeah, I
does, if it
also
has,
researched it. I don't think it has a 4K as of yet.
no, yeah, it will in due time. I guarantee it. There's no the seeing some of the movies get 4Ks nowadays. This one is bound to get one eventually because it is a film classic. It's in my 501 must see movies book. So, you know,
Mm.
it may not be as famous anymore, but it was definitely at a time a very popular movie.
Absolutely. Yeah, indeed. I do think it's considered a cult classic even to this day. I mean,
Well,
obviously
is
not
it
as popular as any other films, but still has a cult following to
well,
this
is
point.
it cult or is it considered a film classic? Because I don't know if I'd consider it a cult movie. I don't know. I mean, maybe today technically, because it did get nominated for Academy Awards, and
Yeah.
it was made by a big studio, so I don't know. I guess, yeah, I don't know if I'd really go as far as to say it's a cult classic. I don't know, maybe if it gets forgotten in a couple years and people rediscover it, sure. I don't know. I feel like maybe a lot of its fans are part of the older generation. I wouldn't be surprised if we're the youngest people
Yeah.
out there who
Yeah.
even know what this
Yeah.
movie is.
Yeah, and even if, and if people, and if younger people, the Gen Z people, those rediscover it, at least we can know we were the first ones to know this one was awesome.
Yeah, we're getting in on the ground floor on this one, boys. So
Heck yeah.
I am keeping this DVD. I like this movie a lot. I would love to watch it again someday. But it has a place in my collection. Specifically this DVD. The ship turning upside down when you select something. I knew I had to keep it purely just because of that. That is so hilarious.
Respectable decision, my man. As for me, I will definitely want to get it physically if I can. I'm not sure if DVD or Blu-ray. I do hope it does get a 4K Blu-ray, but if I do get the chance of seeing it someday, I do plan to get it someday for as part of my collection because I do legitimately enjoy this movie. I give it an 8 out of 10 on Letterboxd, so it's definitely one I do want to revisit from time to time because a lot of its elements did stick a lot with me and it makes me want to revisit them from time to time.
Yeah, totally. Well, do we want to move on to its sequel?
Yes, the sequel that was for some reason produced by Warner Brothers instead of the original that was produced by 20th Century Fox. Yeah, that's kind of weird. I mean, it's by Euro and Island as well, but
Mm-hmm.
by different studios. That's honestly kind of weird.
Well, so from what I understand, I watched an interview with Ernest Borgnine actually before we started recording. Just to go back a little with the first movie, the Ernest Borgnine was talking about how 20th Century Fox, there was like a new studio exec at the time when they were trying to make the movie that didn't want to make the movie, so they didn't allow them to make it, and they had to do some real convincing to get it off the ground, and they eventually did, obviously. And then, ironically enough, that movie Poseidon Adventure was a smash hit when it first came out. Like, it was at the time one of the biggest box office contenders. It is funny hearing Ernest Borgnine in that interview be like, "Yeah, it made like $200 million at the box office, which was a huge hit." It's like, oh, that was considered a huge hit back in the day. Man, oh man, how times have changed.
So much inflation. So much how much inflation changes things.
Yeah, it's inflation definitely, and also just the exuberant amount. Like, there are movies that cost $200 million to make nowadays, which is absurd. But anyway, so I think even though it was a smash hit, I guess there just weren't a lot of people confident in it. But also, I think, it's 7 years later, we're making a sequel. None of the original cast members are returning. And yeah, maybe you want to take this to a different studio that would definitely guarantee to make it. But it is weird that they made a sequel to the Poseidon Adventure when it's like, okay, the characters we cared about made it out. The characters who didn't are all dead. What's left to explore with the boat? It's just sitting there now in the middle of the ocean. So the story they do is they have Michael Caine and a bunch of other people come up to the boat and are scavenging it. And that's the story. The characters just go on the boat to steal stuff from the previous characters, who are still rotting corpses on that boat, by the way. We never see them because this movie was made 7 years later. But it's just so funny that our next main characters for this sequel are desecrating the characters of the previous movie. Pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, technically they're salvaging, but it was like a few hours after what happened, technically. So you're just stealing from rotten very fresh corpses, which honestly feels off, but
it's
very morbidly funny for some reason.
I love that. It's hilarious. It's like, it's insulting, but I mean, I just watched the first movie this week. I don't have a deep love for this movie. I'm sure there are probably fans out there who probably find that insulting, but like, I think that's hilarious. That is awesome. That is in such bad taste that I love that. But the weird thing is, though, so like I said, so the movie is called, first off, I want to talk about the title for a second because the title makes no sense. It's called Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. They're literally back on the boat. There's nothing beyond that. They're not beyond the Poseidon Adventure. They're literally on the boat. There's nothing. It's like,
it's literally the same boat. I mean, I could understand that title if it was like a similar boat that was passing by that was also hit by the wave, was also capsized, but it's the same boat. Why it's called Beyond?
Call it Return to the Poseidon Adventure, or Return of the Poseidon Adventure, or like Return. I guess maybe they didn't want to, because I guess Return makes it sound like it's going to be the same thing all over again, which it is the same thing all over again. It's literally just these characters walking around the boat. They find stuff and then they're trying to get away from the rising waters. It is stupidly simple, which with a complex twist in that Telly Savalas shows up and wants plutonium on the boat. Like, apparently there was plutonium on the boat the whole time.
and also a lot of weaponry, like guns and stuff. Like, where did these things come from?
On a cruise ship?
Well, to be fair, it's an ocean liner, but yeah, it's still weird.
Yeah, it's bizarre, but hilarious because it's so stupid. But in fairness, Telly Savalas sells his role really well. But once again, let's go through all the characters, because there's much like the last movie, there's a lot of famous people in this one, surprisingly. So we'll go over the ones that definitely are most famous, that even a lot of people would probably know. So first off, Michael Caine, main character. I want to say this is one, obviously I think he was a named person because he was the main character of this movie. And people knew who Michael Caine was back in the day, but he wasn't the Michael Caine that we know him now.
Yeah, like he's a lot younger, and he's definitely an interesting actor.
Yeah, he's a great actor, and he sells the role pretty well. We got to talk about Sally Field. I think this definitely has to be one of her earliest roles because she's
Mm.
very young in this. I almost didn't recognize her at first, and then I was looking. I squinted. I was like, "Oh wait, that's Sally Field in the movie."
Yeah, it's really interesting seeing all these types of old movies where you're seeing like, oh, oh wow, these actors here. It's like, oh wow, they're so young. I mean, it makes sense because it's an old movie, but it's still very interesting to look
Yeah.
at, to be
Yeah.
honest.
And honestly, she grew on me over the movie. I could see what they were going for with her, where she's the obnoxious woman character, where she's like, oh, I'm just kind of ditzy and whatever. But I thought she
Mhm.
sold the role pretty well. I thought, wow, okay, this is one of those roles where I would probably be vastly annoyed by it, but I think she sold it pretty well. She did get a chuckle out of me every once in a
Yeah,
while.
her character. I mean, at first I was like, oh no, this is gonna be annoying, but then she did grew up on me, especially when she had the talk with Michael Caine's
Mm,
character about what she wants to help, about how she wants to help out and escape, which was really interesting, honestly.
yeah. We have, like I said, Telly Savalas, the twist villain of the movie. Which I mean, Telly Savalas, what a guy, what an actor. Um,
Yeah, he was really funny. I mean, I love how most of his dialogue, especially in the later half, is he just talks in this very in many elegant ways of basically saying no witnesses. It's so ridiculously
yeah,
funny.
and he sells it. He's even though it's such a stupid character, he's a guy who's he's trying to get the fucking plutonium on the fucking ship. It's so stupid, but Telly Savalas is honestly such a charismatic actor that he sells it so hard that I'm like, oh shit, dude, he's actually quite menacing. Even though, again, it's practically a Bond villain. I mean, he was a Bond villain in on Her Majesty's Secret Service, so he has the
Yeah.
chops for being a Bond villain, I guess.
Yeah, kind of remind me also like that one bad guy from Austin Powers about how ridiculous he's here but doing evil stuff.
Yeah. Peter Boyle, who's uh
The asshole character.
the New Jersey asshole character. It's me, Peter Boyle. I got hair now. Yes, Peter Boyle, Frankenstein's monster in Young Frankenstein, and the grandpa Frank Barone on Everybody Loves Raymond. He's most
Yep.
famous for that too. Anyway,
Yep. I think he's basically immortalized by that at this point, basically.
yeah. So he's the asshole character in this one, and he dies halfway through the movie, and it's obvious. And I mean,
Yeah.
because he is supposed to be likable. He's not supposed to be the unlikable asshole. He's just a dick. But it's not as fun as Ernest Borgnine. And by the end, when he actually dies during the shootout, again, there's a shootout in this fucking
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, probably the most unfitting thing you could put in these types of movies, but I don't know, it was ridiculously funny. Like everybody just grabs the gun and everybody just bam bam shitty shitty bam 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 bam. It was so funny. Like,
It was
oh my
like it was
god.
so inappropriate. It was like the fucking shootout. I don't know. Did you ever watch Doctor Sleep, the sequel to The Shining with Ewan McGregor?
Yeah, I've seen Doctor Sleep. At least
Oh,
the movie adaptation, yeah.
yeah. Oh god, that movie had a shootout. It's like, you know what The Shining was fucking missing? Guns.
Yeah. Speaking of Doctor Sleep, this is also interesting because I also read a little bit of the novel from the original Poseidon Adventure. Apparently, the sink that's in the original book, the ship does sink, or I mean, it doesn't just stay afloat. It sinks. So I guess in the sequel they do follow it, just like how the original Shining, the Outlook Hotel wasn't destroyed like in the book, but it stayed there.
Mm.
So Doctor Sleep does revisit it. So it's kind of an interesting coincidence, seeing those cinematic parallels.
Yeah, that's right. So the boat doesn't entirely sink at the end of Poseidon Adventure. So I guess there's still people in there. So yeah, Peter Boyle. So Michael Caine, Sally Field, Telly Savalas, they're like part of the groups of people that actually find the ship. So they're going onto the ship. But then Peter Boyle and other actors were still there. They just weren't in the rooms that the other characters were in, which I guess it's fine. Like you see them in their like party dresses and suits, and you just think,
Yeah.
oh, they were just in a different room, I guess. But they're like, oh yeah, we were here the whole time. It's like,
Yeah,
okay, dude.
Yeah, okay. I mean, to be fair, in the original Poseidon Adventure, there was this scene where everyone was seeing all the people that did left that weren't in the ballroom trying to escape. That Drebber and Skull was just saying they're just gonna die eventually. They're just gonna die eventually. So I guess maybe some of them did survive, or they're just in different rooms. It's weird, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. You never know because the ship is so big that I'm sure there were rooms that they didn't come across other people in. It's just mighty convenient we didn't see them in the first movie. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, especially a movie made 7 years later.
Yeah, but it's okay. You know who didn't see them? Jack Warden, because he played the blind guy.
Yeah, I actually really like the blind old man. Honestly, he was pretty entertaining.
Jack Warden. He's an actor I've been seeing a lot of recently because I watched 12 Angry Men for the podcast. He's in Great Muppet Caper. I edited that segment during James's Muppet ranking, so I rewatched that movie. He's in that movie. He's also been in a couple of Twilight Zone episodes, like more than one. And yeah, so I've been seeing a lot of Jack Warden lately in the past couple of months. And yeah, I really like him. I think he's a great actor. And yeah, he's not blind in real life, but man, he plays a blind man really well.
Yeah, especially, and I think it's an interesting archetype for this type of movie because I mean, when you look at it upon all these 4 movies we watched, they really explore different character archetypes about how they will react or act during this situation about trying to skip a capsizing boat and having a blind character, especially an old man blind character. It's actually interesting because they don't know how they're gonna orient themselves with many upside down rooms. So it's interesting to see something like that, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple other characters I want to point out. There's a lot of characters, but I don't really remember them being that like okay, so the blind man's wife, I believe it's played by Shirley Knight. Yeah. And I mean, she was fine, but when she died, I was more so confused. I'm like, "Oh, there she goes. I guess she's out of the movie now."
Yeah, there was also this lady who was also trapped in the boat, but apparently she was working alongside Telly Savalas for some reason, and then she gets killed, and it's like, okay,
yeah. So here's my thing. So okay, Telly Savalas. At first, you're like, okay, he knew about the uranium, plutonium. I keep forgetting which it is, but who cares? He finds he knows there's nuclear stuff on the ship, and he goes to find it. But yeah, he had someone on the inside. So wait, what was the plan if it wasn't gonna capsize? Was the capsizing part of finding it? It's like, was this just a happy accident, or is this like another? Is this part? Was it supposed to be part of the plan, or what was his plan to get the plutonium if the ship didn't capsize? Is my ultimate question. What was the plan?
Maybe he had like multiple plans. Like plan A, if the boat actually reaches its destination to, I think it was Greece originally, but maybe they will try to take his goons and actually secretly take the plutonium out. And then when the captain see that, I mean, I do remember when the captain gave the SOS message when the wave was about to hit. So maybe he intercepted that. So somehow, so he was able to know that the ship got capsized. So he had to get it.
But then what's the point of the Suzanne character, the woman he kills? Because she's like, yeah, I'm working with him. Okay, she's working for him. What was the point of her? To say, oh yeah, there's plutonium on this ship that you already know. You already know there's plutonium on this ship.
Yeah, like so apparently she actually, like apparently, like once we know in existence, she just realized she actually had to verify that there was plutonium there, like checking on the inventory list and all, and just to make sure, like, what was the plan exactly? I don't get it.
Okay, so maybe the point of her is that there's a twist, like, oh, one of the people who's trying to escape, she was actually working for Telly Savalas. Okay. That twist is figured out 40 minutes into the movie, and then she dies. So if you have a twist, you're not supposed to figure out the twist like 40 minutes into the movie. You're supposed to figure it out into the third act, not into the second act or within the second act. So it's like,
and it's not,
that's
and it's not like
that's when you realize, okay, this movie is stupid. It's not nearly as good as the first one. I mean, it's not when you realize, going in, what the fuck are we doing here? But man, that's when it starts to hit like, this is really stupid.
Yeah, and it's not like Sabalis's character was that subtle of a twist. Like he goes dressed all white with a black shirt, with a black shirt, and also dressed all white in a fancy jet with mysterious people that are nameless. I think are nameless, by the way.
Oh yeah.
So he's obviously evil.
That's a good point. He starts off the movie in this very nice suit in a very nice yacht, and he looks at Michael Caine and he goes, I'm an EMT, I'm a doctor. It's like, wait a minute. No, you're not. No, the fuck you're not. Oh. I guess I do want to mention a couple other actors, though, who are in this. So Slim Pickens is in this. Tex.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Ted. I actually loved Slim Pickens in this. Ted was the character Ted was really funny. Like, it was obvious he was pretending to be like an oil man billionaire, but it wasn't like a liar reveal or anything, because even Michael Caine's character knew it from the start, but he didn't care because he wanted to save these people eventually, but he didn't want to save them. So it was nice to Ted to be open about it eventually. So he seemed like a really nice guy. Even when he was pretending to be, he was willing to make other people feel okay with him, and which is pretty nice, honestly.
I just like it because when Slim Pickens first gets into the movie, he just kind of drunkenly walks into frame, where I thought, I'd like to believe Slim Pickens himself just walked drunkenly onto the set, and the filmmakers were like, okay, we'll just roll with it. He just shows up, and then he's in the movie for the rest of the duration.
Yeah. He is pretty funny, even when he gets drunk or something. It also, he just holds his damn wine bottle, his precious wine bottle. It's so funny. He carrying it around all throughout the film.
Yeah, exactly. And then I want to mention Angela Cartwright and Mark Harmon. So they're the young love in this movie. Angela Cartwright, who I was like, I recognize her from somewhere. I looked it up. She's Brigitte. She's one of the children in Sound of Music, which I was like, oh, that's where I know you from. Cool. And then her boyfriend, Mark Harmon, who people know as the NCIS guy. I know him because he plays a bodyguard on season 3 of The West Wing. So I had to give my West Wing shout out there, because
you'll be mentioning that you'll be watching West Wing, like you're in a West Wing phase apparently.
Dude, I'm obsessed with that show so hard. That's not even funny. I'm so obsessed. I haven't been this obsessed with a show since Sopranos. Like that, it is up there for me. I have to talk about it somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, the Beyond the Poseidon Adventure, man, it's a stupid 70s sequel, but that's why I kind of like it. I find it fascinating. It's a little boring at times. I was this close to giving it a 5 out of 10, like very, very close. But
I think wait. I think we're forgetting one character. The character that in the credits, the actor, it says playing as Wilbur.
Oh yeah, Carl Malden's character.
Yeah,
I don't really have that much to say about him. I never really found him that interesting, because he's just old man who dies. Because he's like, he has a heart problem throughout the movie or something, and he's hiding it. It's like, okay, you're not Shelley Winters from the first movie, dude. I don't care.
Yeah, I didn't really care that much. Like I was trying to see what was the point of his character. Like I could see it, but there was not a lot to it. In fact, I think he dies off screen. Like I think the last we see of him, he just swims around, but we never see him drown.
Yeah,
so he just dies off screen.
We see the characters go back for him, and then they don't see him for they go back for 5 seconds. They don't see him, and they just go, well, he's gone. It's like, wow, okay, cool. But what a send off for one of your main characters, I guess.
Yeah, one that you needed to actually say which character he's playing as. Yeah, that was necessary.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like at least in the first movie when it says and Leslie Nielsen playing as the captain, like everybody knows who Leslie Nielsen is. So that makes sense. But here, I don't know.
Yeah, again, it just shows you why I forgot about him, and I just went immediately into talking about the movie as a whole. It's like I don't care for this character. That's the thing. It's a stupid 70s sequel. It's so dumb, but it has a charm to it that I kind of like. Where I don't love it for the reasons I'm supposed to love it. I love it because it's a time capsule of a bygone era. We will never get movies like this ever again because it has that 70s aesthetic that you can only find in the 70s.
Yeah, I also want to mention you can tell this is a very old movie because the effects are kind of worse than the original. Like in the very beginning, when Michael Caine is on when Michael Caine his little groove is on the boat, you can totally tell it's a blue screen with and just a water effects. Like that's so obvious
I
that they're
mean,
not in the water.
they're blatantly using footage from the first movie. Like when they look down when they go down into the they go down into like the engine room and they look down and you can see Linda's body burning in the flames. It's so
Mhm.
obviously a different quality camera because it's literally just the footage from the first movie that they're reusing. So it's like
No, yeah,
it's
yeah.
so
Not only that,
blatant.
but yeah, not only that, but I think like I counted like 10 times where they reused that damn boat, that capsized boat explosion underwater from the first movie. They reused that a lot in this sequel.
Isn't it funny how the same areas keep blowing up in the sequel? Suspicious.
Yeah.
So, but you know what? I wouldn't mind watching this movie again. If it was on TV on like a Saturday afternoon, I have nothing else to do. I could totally rewatch this and just make fun of it. I looked it up. I can't find a Blu-ray release. It's one of those movies that has yet to have a Blu-ray release. Not just the first
Oh.
movie where it doesn't have a 4K. This does not have a Blu-ray release. It's just on DVD.
Yeah, yeah, it's that's off. Like a lot of movies, even forgotten ones, get Blu-rays. It's kind of interesting. This one doesn't have as of yet.
I mean, judging by its score on Letterboxd and the amount of people who have seen it, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, yeah. For some reason, this has 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I'm like,
uh
why? I mean,
yeah, that's Rotten Tomatoes for you, but like come on, dude.
it's like, I mean, it's not a great movie, but it's not that awful. I mean, I
No.
did give it a 5 out of 10 on Letterboxd, but thinking more about it, it's not that awful. I mean, I might probably bump it up to a 6 if I rewatch it again, but I don't know. It's inoffensive, is what I will say.
I have seen far worse movies than Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. I would love to add it to the collection. Not anytime soon. I'll find a DVD on it someday, I'm sure. But I could see myself adding it and watching it again. It's that cheesy 70s that I kind of like. I mean, if I never add it to the collection, I'm not really going to miss it either, you know? Just
I mean, if I see it, for example, getting attached with the original Poseidon Adventure physically, like a Blu-ray set or something, I might probably get that
yeah,
probably. But
yeah.
I probably just prioritize the original Poseidon Adventure when it comes to getting it on DVD or Blu-ray and such.
Yeah, yeah. So, it's dumb, but I think there's enough working for it that I wouldn't mind watching it again.
Before we continue, there's also an interesting factoid I wanna mention about this sequel specifically. Apparently, when they were working on the sequel, they actually asked Paul Gallico to write a book sequel, not a sequel to his book, but like a book based on the sequel of the movie. So he had his many ideas. Like apparently, there was going to be a tiger chasing down the new set of characters. And the funny thing about this movie didn't use anything from that book that Gallico wrote after he died. So what's the point?
I mean, when you involve tigers, dude, that sounds stupid. I mean, I would love to see them try, but come on. Really?
Yeah. I guess Telesavice is more realistic than a tiger, which to be fair it is, but I don't know. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. So, they obviously didn't do anything with this version of the Poseidon Adventure. Like that, this is the last we see of this universe of the Poseidon Adventure. But we have two remakes to talk about, and what's interesting about these remakes is they're a year apart from each other.
Yeah.
Because the first one we're going to talk about is the miniseries from 2005, aptly titled The Poseidon Adventure. It is a blatant remake. This definitely is this is definitely more of a blatant remake than the next one we'll get to. But this one's a mini series. It's 173 minutes long. It is 2 episodes, which is confusing, but whatever.
Like why is it 2 episodes? Wouldn't it just be like just call it a TV movie of part 1 and part 2? Like, why is it a mini series?
Well, so when it comes to miniseries, it's like, you know, the original Dune miniseries from 2000, the sci-fi one I've talked about on the podcast, that is 3 episodes long. But like, I don't know, that makes more sense to me. It's like you chop it up into 3 parts, whereas here it's 1 and 2. I don't know, just a series that is 2 episodes long is a little awkward, I think.
Yeah.
But whatever, nitpicky. But yeah, it is a blatant remake. It also is significant because the initial capsizing is not done by waves or natural disasters. It's done so by a terrorist attack because they blow up the side of the ship, and that's what causes it to fall over.
Which is
so
I'm not.
The movie was made in 2005. If a certain event happened a couple years before, and you know, terrorism was kind of on people's minds. So yeah, I think I know why they remade this like that.
Yeah, what a coincidence.
So yeah, obviously, it's in America and around the world, a lot of people were very scared by terrorist attacks. So I guess you can see why they remade it with that in mind. It's like, oh, how about instead of a natural disaster, it's a disaster caused by terrorist acts? It's like, okay, but like the Poseidon Adventure, that's what you're gonna mix in? You're gonna mix in the initial capsizing just falling over because they blew up a cruise ship? What is the significance of this cruise ship again? Why do they blow it up?
Yeah, I don't think they never explained why they needed to target this cruise ship. Like, they wanted to raise a point or message these terrorists want to make, but I don't know. They may call it like a suicidal homicide attempt, which is, why are they suiciding for again? I don't remember, honestly.
Yeah, it's stupid. Like, okay, you do realize there was a reason why, you know, the terrorists in 2001 targeted the Twin Towers. There's a reason why they did that. Here, it's a cruise ship full of people. Was it just because, oh, these terrorists are evil? And it makes no sense. And the terrorists themselves, they're just nothing but the most blatant Arabic stereotypes. It's of the 2000s. It is not anything. It is literally the same level as From Paris with Love. The kind of fucking Islamophobia this series has.
Oh god,
it's bizarre. Oh, I highly recommend From Paris with Love if you want to watch a movie from 2010 deal with Arabian terrorists. It's great in that it's not.
Yeah, I'll take a point on that. Thank you.
Okay, besides the fact that, oh, it's not a storm that causes the capsizing, it's a blatant terrorist attack, the rest of the movie's just kind of the same thing, but drawn out to 173 minutes and far more boring. And it's really rough to get through. Like, at first I was trying to give it the benefit of the doubt. I really checked out by the 2nd episode. I was so done with this version of the Poseidon Adventure. It got painful to sit through. I was like, I am so bored.
Yeah, I relate to you. Maybe because you saw it like straight. Like I did like just saw like the first episode one day and then the second episode the next day. But even then, by the second episode, even by the last like 3 minutes, I was already just bored and feeling dull. Like I just wanted it to end. I just don't care anymore. Like come on, this is so unnecessarily long. Like you're not even doing anything special about it. You're just, that's the thing with this remake. It's just it is the most, compared to the other remake that we're gonna talk about later. This one does take a lot of elements from the original book / movie, but it also mixes it with all this ridiculous new stuff, with all this new stuff in quotations, like new stuff in quotations that just doesn't make a lot of sense when you mix it with the stuff that already works from the original.
Yeah. So You do bring up a good point. I did watch this all in one night, so maybe that's on me for watching the whole thing in one sitting. But also, I watched It's a Mad, 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 Mad World last night, which is a 3-hour movie. I watched it in all one sitting, and I fucking loved it because it's one of my favorite comedy movies ever made. It's an amazing film. I watched this in one night and was bored out of my fucking mind. So you know what? It's not it's not my problem, it's the movie's problem. It just was not paced very well. It's not an interesting miniseries.
Yeah, it's just I will even say it's really bad, especially as a remake. It's just, I mean, even without counting the terrorist attack, most of these characters, they're just boring or just uninteresting or just bad or are assholeish to some extent. I mean, and even annoying to some extent. Like I mean, I don't know. Like, for example, this version of Mike Rogo, I don't like him at all. Like the original Mike Rogo, I mean, you could get what he's going through, but he's just so uninteresting in this. He even still plays as a cop in this, which just, I'm pretty sure that's not what the original author wanted. So
yeah, in this version, it's Adam Baldwin as Mike Rogo, but he's not a retired cop. He's a middle-aged, like federal agent or something like that. He's working for like Homeland Security or something like that.
mhm.
And so he says he's on vacation, but then he's also on duty, and yeah, he never is a fun character to be around. He's super serious. He never smiles. He's just kind of a drab. You're like, ugh. I mean, I guess that's part of the point, but then he has nobody to bounce off of. Like everybody else is either super serious or just super annoying. So he's just lame, this character. I don't care for him.
Yeah, like he doesn't have his wife. He doesn't experience the similar struggles that the original Mike Rogo does. He just like police mode, always carrying around this terrorist this terrorist who doesn't have a character at all. He's just, oh, I'm evil. It's like, it's not that interesting.
I'm fine with him having a different character arc than the original Mike Rogo. I'm fine with that. They just don't do anything with him. He's completely pointless.
Exactly.
So Rutger Hauer, who's Roy Batty in Blade Runner, he's in this movie.
Hell yeah.
He plays the religious character, the bishop, not Reverend Scott. It's Bishop Schmidt. But he is not very good in this movie, and he's not very interesting. He is not Gene Hackman's character.
Yeah, and that's what the point when I said at the point of, I feel like the point of Reverend Scott is because the capsicum was made by natural causes, and you feel like, oh well, this is maybe like an act of God or like trying to face God or something. Like there was a point to Reverend Scott about trying to put their prayers into active mode, but because this was made by a terrorist attack, it's like, no, this wasn't made by natural occurrences. This was made by people and by evil people, that might say. So I feel like there was no point for a bishop character to begin with for this type of movie.
Yeah, he has no reason to be here. He's just a religious character because that's what the first movie had. Oh god, Steve Guttenberg. We have to talk about him. He's one of the main characters. So Steve Guttenberg is not a very good actor. I don't know why he had a career in all those years that he was in movies and stuff, but he sucks in this. He's not funny. He's not charismatic. His thing is that he's going through marriage troubles with his wife, which we kind of just get dropped into halfway through. It's like, okay, I'm fine with not explaining certain things that we can figure out as the movie goes along, but they just drop us right into it where he just does not get along with his wife. And the reason he doesn't get along with his wife is, as far as I understand it, he's jealous that she's a successful CEO and he's a struggling writer. It's like, okay, I don't see your point, dude. I don't see why you then cheat on her blatantly in the movie.
Yeah, am I supposed to like you because of that? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine with you making I'm fine with you making a character make weird choices like that where he actively cheats on his wife, but then give me a reason to then care for him. Like maybe his wife is cheating on someone, so it's like, that's retaliation. It's shitty, but I understand it. no, she's just a successful CEO and he's just a petty asshole. It's like, okay, you suck, dude. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, yeah. It really feels like that part of Incredibles 2 where Bob is jealous of his wife being
Yeah,
more successful
for no
and at
reason.
least
They're just putting it in
Mhm.
there for no reason, just for the sake of just so then the movie can be, can have drama. It's like, oh, he actively wishes his wife not success. It's like that. What? Where did this come from? What the fuck?
like that's a shitty reason, especially putting your kids in the middle of this. Which should we talk about the kids also?
Ugh, I hate these kids. The little
Yeah,
boy character who's obsessed with being a filmmaker. So he's making a vampire movie. So, oh my god. So he has a video camera and
yeah,
first of all, he instantly recognizes a producer character, like the Australian producer who produces TV shows. The kid
yeah.
is like, "I know you. You're that producer character." It's like, no 10-year-old knows who a producer is. They might know who a director is. They especially will know who an actor is. They don't fucking know who a producer is. Like, fuck out of here.
Maybe this kid is just as autistic as the original. He just loves filmmaking.
I guess so. Yeah. Okay. Autism once again. Yeah. Um, and then the daughter, I guess, is supposed to be a teenager. And then she has a crush on the adult doctor, C. Thomas Howell's character, which is
Mhm.
fucking bizarre because, once again, I don't find C. Thomas Howell that attractive. I don't think he's that attractive a man. No offense to the dude. I think he's a nice guy. I think he's a good actor, but instantly she just kind of falls in love with him like immediately. It's like, okay, then later on, I guess she sees that he's a doctor and that he knows what he's doing, and so then she's also trying to be a doctor herself, so that's how they bond. But immediately they have like the first scene they share with each other, she just immediately is infatuated with him. It's like, okay, where did this come from? This is
Yeah,
coming out
yeah.
of
You just
nowhere.
Yeah, like you just look at that. Yeah, I remember the scene. Like she just looks at his face and she's like, "Oh my god, love at first sight." It's like, where did this come from? That's
Yeah.
not how it works.
Yeah, but again, if he was someone like Brad Pitt or George Clooney or someone who has, instant charisma, I could understand it. But it's C. Thomas Howell. No, again, no offense to the guy, but come on, dude. Really?
Pretty much.
We have RoboCop as the captain, though. That's cool, right?
Yeah,
Right?
that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I did feel sad when he got shot and died. That
Oh,
was kind of sad,
oh, I
but
laughed. I laughed so hard when he died. It was so funny when he fucking, because he's just walking up the stairs and the terrorist in the middle of all these people pulls out a gun and just shoots him. And
uh,
RoboCop is like, "Oh, I guess I'm shot now," and falls over.
yeah, he's like, "Oh, I guess this is it for me. Okay, bye," and he just falls down.
Oh, it's so funny. So funny. I get it. The captain dies in the first one. And in this version, it's hilarious. Um yeah, and there's other, yeah, so to go back on the fucking little boy character,
Mhm.
he's obsessed with making a movie. It's like, okay, fine. He's on this boat trip. He's going to make a movie. He's going to make what? A documentary about the boat, or he's going to make a home movie. No. He makes a vampire movie with Mr. Akers. It's like, hold the fuck on. No. That you've taken something stupid and gone too far with it. It's like, first off, I'm annoyed first off with the fact that he's a little boy obsessed with making a movie, because then you could be like, oh, you can have fourth wall breaks of like movie making stuff. It's like I hate that in movies when you have a character obsessed with movies. It's obnoxious most of the time.
Especially in a TV miniseries that obviously doesn't have the same budget as a theatrical film.
Yeah, but also if you're gonna have him be interested in filmmaking and on this boat with a camera, make him want to make a documentary. Like, oh yeah, I'm making a documentary because we're on this trip, we're on this vacation, we're on a boat. He's like, no, I'm gonna make a vampire movie. It's like, what? It's so stupid. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, like I don't like it doesn't. Yeah, like I mean, it would make sense if it was like a documentary, or maybe it's a school project, or he just wants to record the ship and make a film out of it, like knowing like the lives of a people going into this cruise ship. But no, he just wants to make vampire movie like on a boat, on a cruise.
It's
What's I don't see the correlation. It's like between two Lego pieces that don't fit together, and it's like, no, doesn't work.
it's entirely random. It makes no sense, and I hate it. It's one of the it's so lame. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
And some of his dialogue is just so dumb and annoying when he says, "Oh, that's how Spielberg did it." That's how Spielberg did it in Temple of Doom, even though that movie was bad. Like, shut up, kid! You don't know shit.
Yeah, well, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. It was back in the day when people thought Temple of Doom was as bad as Indiana Jones got, and well, we got proven very wrong by that. But also, yeah, it is one of those blatant references where he's just like, this is just like Spielberg and Temple of Doom. It's like, oh, Temple of Doom reference. I know what that is. This movie's automatically good. No, it's not. I hate that. I hate when movies do that. Like, this is just like that movie. Shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear that at all.
Yeah, and it's also kind of weird how the employee, how many of the workers on the ship is okay with the little kid just wandering around with a video camera, like nothing, especially Akers. Is like, is there no responsibility here, like protocols or something?
I mean, I guess there is that scene where Mr. Akers like writes on a fucking napkin, like, oh, I give permission for Mr. Shitty Little Kid to film a stupid movie here. It's like, okay, I guess that makes it okay. And then, yeah, throughout the rest of the movie, when they're in dire situations, and he just whips out the video camera like, haha, I'm filming now. Oh, it's so annoying.
Yeah, like when he sees the outside computers, he's like, "Oh God, Bill Gates' worst nightmare." I'm like, "Shut up already!" You don't know.
I missed that entirely. I did not remember that he said that. I must have been so checked out when they got to that part because, yeah, you said that as like a really annoying line. I'm like, I don't remember that happening in the movie at all. I believe you, it happened. I just don't remember it.
Yeah, I do believe you did miss it because this miniseries is just so dull. It's just, it goes way long for its own good. It's like, there's no reason for this to, I mean, here's the thing about it. I don't think Poseidon Adventure can work as a miniseries, especially considering if you follow how the book was, like it's a natural occurrence and you want to follow the complex personalities of each of these characters. But this film doesn't do any of that. It just wants to be. It's like I said in my Letterboxd review. This really feels like some like fan fiction of someone who says, "Oh, I'm gonna make my own version of Poseidon Adventure, but I'm gonna do it more epic. I'm gonna add terrorists and all this stuff." And it's like, no, you're not getting the story at all.
And it's on a television budget, a Hallmark television budget with the visuals and whatnot, but also from a writing perspective as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the moment I saw the Hallmark Entertainment Presents, I was like, "Oh no, what have I done?
I got slapped in the face by that." Yeah, it was just like Hallmark Presents. I'm like, "What the fuck?" Oh my goodness gracious! Hallmark of all channels made this movie.
God damn it!
Yeah. So, So I wanted to talk about, because the one thing I feel like this movie does kind of do okay with the whole ballroom leaving scene, because in this version, you know, everybody's still kind of recuperating as they're trying to leave, but the daughter refuses because she says, "Oh, I want to help these people." It's like, okay, that makes sense for why you're staying here. Whereas in other versions, you have like a purser character or the captain being like, "No, we must stay here because it's safe here," when it's clearly not. Whereas here, at least you have the daughter character being like, "I'm going to stay here and help these people." And then eventually they do leave when they realize, oh shit's going down. And so then it's like, okay, that makes sense. That is the one thing this movie has over any other versions of Poseidon Adventure. The rest of it sucks. It is not interesting.
I also want to mention there was one outside of like what you mentioned about the importance of the sister being in the ballroom. there was also one thing I did like about this thing, and it's how they handled this version of Miss Rosen. Like, I don't think it's as good as how it was in the original, but I will say it's almost on par, because I do feel they did treat her death seriously after taking her swim taking her swim. I do love when she's with the bishop giving her the last words. It does feel very grounded. It does feel I was feeling like emotionally invested in that. But but I'm saying it's almost on par because it is also very unknown about what was gonna be her fate, because there are moments where she's like, oh, I think I'm gonna have like a heart attack or something. And it's like, okay, you're not very subtle, movie.
Does Mrs. Rosen die in this version?
There. I mean, yeah. I do. There is a Miss Rosen in this. It's just that her death is in the second episode, and you just said that you were just bored by it. So I think you forgot.
Did she die? Because I don't remember her dying in this movie.
No, she did die. She did die.
She did? Oh man,
yeah.
I completely forgot. I remember Mrs. Rosen's death in the original movie. I don't remember her death in the miniseries. Did it? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, who made it out in the miniseries? Now that I think of, oh, you know who didn't make it? The whore.
Yeah,
the masseuse whore that Steve Guttenberg fucking porks in the miniseries. Yeah, she just gives up. I remember that part. She just like is hanging above the fucking PS2 flames, and then she just falls over. Yeah, she fucking explodes. And then she's out of the movie.
And also the terrorist also dies by the super fake fire. Like, oh my god, that fire is the most hilarious shit ever. When people die from that, it's like, and then it's just, oh my god, that's the most hilarious shit ever. Like, oh my god,
it's so funny. She's just the worthless masseuse character. She was the side piece for Steve Guttenberg, so the movie's like, fuck her, she dies. It's like, wow. Wow, so blatant movie. That is so funny. So offensive.
Also Akers dies in this, but it's also more lamer, but also funny because the city just plays out like, okay, everything's fine. But then the music just ramps up into the dramatic violins and such, and then the stuff just falls over and then it fucking explodes.
That was so funny. My god. That was incredible. That was funny. Just watching Akers explode under the stove. Oh, that was great. That was awesome.
That's also the thing about this movie compared to the original film, where it didn't know how to balance silence with the music score. This one just does it's loud all the time. It's always music playing in the most unnecessary places. Like, for example, when the mom is searching for her daughter, and of course in the original story the daughter is stabbed in the table in the ceiling, but then this miniseries just plays like a violin thing, like a dramatic violin thing, just to show that the daughter is on the table. It's like, there's no need for that. Come on.
It's on top of that, it is the cheesiest late 90s, early 2000s television music with the piano and the violins. Yeah, it is so cheesy. To bring it back to West Wing, it is the exact kind of music you will hear in West Wing, but whereas that show knows how to use it sparingly, and I'm actually quite nostalgic for it when it's in West Wing, here I'm just annoyed by it. It's so obnoxious.
Yeah. I can get because maybe there was a point in the 2000s where you want people to be focused, but silence is golden sometimes, you know.
Yeah. Immediately after the ship capsizes, again in the original, it's completely silent and people are slowly figuring out what happened. Immediately in this one, it flips over and the music is still going and people are immediately starting to figure out what happened. There's no pacing. There's no tension. I thought this was supposed to be a much longer interpretation. No, in fact, it's paced horribly where it just gets right back into the next thing and the next thing. And it's paced too quickly for us to let anything sink in. Again, ironic considering this is the longer version.
Exactly. And also I feel like the music is also kind of manipulative. Like, it's telling you, oh, this is the part where you feel you had to be scared. This is the part where you had to be like sad and stuff. And it's like there's no need for that, because just like you said in the original, when after the capsizing, the silence sells all the people in the ballroom, all their fear and such with the silence. You understand it pretty well, and in fact it works well because it feels really human. This one, it just feels like like a bad play of something. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So when it comes to miniseries talked about on this podcast, this is nowhere near the original Dune sci-fi miniseries. I guess I rated it higher than the Children of Dune miniseries, but I mean, they're both pretty on par, I would say. They're pretty bad. They're not very good. Which is a shame because there are good miniseries out there. Like I said, the Dune one, that one's very good.
Yeah, I believe you.
Oh man, but yeah, I don't know, is there really anything else to say about the Poseidon Adventure miniseries, the Hallmark Poseidon Adventure? It's about as bad as a Hallmark Poseidon Adventure could be.
Yeah, I do remember when we were chatting in the Discord server when you said the CGFS remind me of the Sweet Life on Deck, and it's like, oh my god, that was such a funny comment.
Yeah, it literally looks like Sweet Life on Deck, the fucking children's show from Disney Channel. We're equating to the fucking Poseidon Adventure. So yeah, fuck this miniseries. I think it has a DVD and Blu-ray release. I'm never adding it to the collection because fuck it. It does not need to be seen again. It wasn't even funny bad. Like I tried and then I immediately checked out. I was so bored by the end.
Yeah, it has its funny ironic moments, but I'd rather forget about it.
There's not enough funny ironic moments for me to return to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, screw you, Hallmark.
Yeah. Well, immediately they made another remake because they thought I don't know why. Why did they make two remakes within very close to each other? That is weird to me.
Maybe the miniseries was made by a different production in another country, while this one was like the American side. I don't know. I don't remember who made the miniseries, but maybe I could see that like a legitimate point, but I don't know.
Well, anyway, they made one in 2006, and they just called it Poseidon. It's one of those remakes or movies from modern era that just has one word as the title. It's like, okay, I'm not totally opposed to that trope. I know there's a lot of people have complained about that. We're like, oh, Tangled, Brave, come on, dude. It's like, whatever. So
it's for marketing. It's for marketing purposes. So yes. I can't blame them from that angle.
So Poseidon, I don't have that many negative things to say about Poseidon. I thought it was pretty solid. I don't think it's great by any means. But for a Poseidon Adventure remake made in 2006, I was expecting something a lot worse than what I got.
Yeah, I feel you on the same. I mean, I don't call it like as good as the original.
No.
But I think it's a decent remake. I mean, in the point of trying to make like its own take of the Poseidon Adventure, because here's the thing: compared to the miniseries where it was just lots to cherry pick, like what's from the book, and also the stuff that doesn't make sense. This one is all after the capsizing. It's basically its own thing. It's basically its own characters, its own character archetypes. They actually go through different scenarios on how to escape the boats, which I will say it's a different unique take that I think work decent enough, I will say.
Yeah. I was this close to giving it a 5 out of 10, but as the movie progressed, I was like, you know what? There's enough working for it, I would say. It's not anything great. It is a cheesy Hollywood movie from 2006, but again, considering what it is, a remake of a beloved classic made in the year 2006, it's not as bad as I was expecting. I was like, hey, for a remake, I've seen far worse. I've also seen far better.
Yeah, it's basically like the good middle ground, I will say. Like not above average, but it's inoffensive, basically.
Considering the remakes we've seen, this is the best case scenario.
Yeah,
think about it.
Which honestly, yeah, I've seen many remakes, very bad remakes. So this is actually like a good fresh of breath air in that regard, honestly.
Yeah. Again, let's go through the characters. The main character apparently is Josh Lucas, who is a bit of a Mr. Martin character. He's the single dude who's seen running at the beginning on the deck. That is it was a weird reference, if it's trying to be a reference, but not too distracting, where you're like, okay, he's just jogging on the boat, but so was Mr. Martin in the first one. But
Mm-hmm.
I actually really liked him. I thought he was pretty good. And I was kind of shocked by that because my experience with Josh Lucas as the main character of something was Stealth, one of the earliest movies I talked about on the podcast. He was the
Oh
main
yeah.
character of that movie, and boy howdy did he not work in that role. You know what? Considering what else we've gotten, I was pleasantly surprised by his inclusion in this movie.
Yeah, yeah. I thought he was decent enough. Like yeah, he was also kind of assholeish sometimes because he's like, oh no, I work alone. Like, come
Yeah,
on, dude. You
yeah,
know you can't work alone.
yeah.
Like
It was
you do need.
one of those obvious like macho main character roles where he's like, I work alone. It's like, come on, dude. We know where this is going. But the movie never, it's never that obsessed with that plot line. You know, like I don't know. It never calls attention to it that often throughout the rest of the film. It's actually quite restrained with that. It's more so more a little more in the background. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I will say, going by the characters, I thought they were all right. I thought they were decent.
Yeah.
I just think that their backstories are not as fleshed out as,
No.
or their personality as the original. It's because I think this remake it's like similar to many of the 2000s and 2010s disaster films where the main characters are not like the personalities and their conflicts are not the focus, but rather the set designs and the scenarios and the effects are the main stars of the show, which
Yeah.
I will say for this remake, they really did a great job with showcasing the capsizing,
Mm.
the precarious set designs. I thought they were really good, honestly.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, like you said, like you said, this is very much like a 2012 where you don't really care about the characters, you care about the effects that are going. And for an effects-driven film, it is very obviously CGI heavy because it was the time. That's what you did in the 2000s. The 90s exploded with CGI usage. The 2000s used that explosion and tried to kind of replicate that. And then into the 2010s, oh boy, it got worse in the 2010s. That's not up for debate. It really is.
Hmm.
But I remember Cac brought this up when I was talking with Cac about this. There's a really specific charm with late 90s, early 2000s, and even into the 2000s CGI where there's a lot of experimentation being done when yes, it looks obvious and it doesn't look as good, but there is a charm to it, and I completely agreed with him. I thought he was onto something with that.
Yeah, yeah, I can see why. I can see why because not only it's because it's an already old era by this point, but it's because I do feel that they do try to make it look as realistic as possible in terms of using good lighting techniques and
Hmm.
such to make it look more like livelier, like you're actually seeing it like it's real
Yeah,
in that sense.
I'm not as glazed over, like my eyes aren't as glazed over from the CGI usage in this like I would be a later MCU film where everything is CGI, nothing is real, and it's
Hmm.
obnoxious. Or
Yeah, mhm.
because they do use real sets, and it's not like the prequels where everything was on a green screen, but I still like the designs of everything in the prequels on the green screen. I don't know. There's this balance where there is practical sets, there's a lot of CGI usage, but it's still used more so as a tool. It's just it's not the 90s where there was a better balance where you had something like Jurassic Park where it was very much a tool. You know, there's a lot
Mhm.
of replacing with the CGI here. But I don't hate any of it. I think it looks fine for the time.
Yeah, it also depends on what's on. It also depends on what's your tolerance into a certain art styles because
Yes.
even when you're defining CG, obviously you have to go. It depends on the filmmakers if you want to do like a realistic looking CG or very like artistically driven CG or cartoonish CG in that regard. Which honestly, the MCU is really failing because instead of doing things realistically, they just look more cartoonish as they go on.
Yeah, and but not even cartoonish in a fun way like a Sam Raimi Spider-Man CGI, which yeah, that's cartoony, but it looks fun. It looks interesting. There's life to it even though it looks fake. In the MCU, there's no fun to be had with the fake looking CGI. It's just looks fake because everybody's been crunched to get it out because we got to please the Disney Plus algorithm.
Absolute, indeed.
So,
It's a mess.
well, I mean, yeah, there's no doubt about that. But I guess to go back to the characters, I mean, yeah, none of these characters are great. They're not awful. I wouldn't say that. I was never annoyed by. I mean, I was annoyed by what's his name, fucking Lucky Larry, Kevin Dillon's character. You know,
Yeah.
that is the typical asshole character. You know,
Oh yeah.
the kind that Ernest Borgnine almost was, but was actually done very well. Like this is the asshole character where you're like, okay, you're gonna die soon, and he dies immediately. You know, he's not
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
movie very long.
Yeah. I didn't feel anything for that guy. It's like,
No.
okay, you're just being an asshole just for being an asshole.
Yeah.
Like maybe you're kind of drunk, okay, but you're still being an asshole. And there were and because I didn't see much about it, I always knew he was gonna die. And yeah, he dies early, which thank you so much.
Again, I'm not opposed to there being an asshole character. You could make that entertaining. They just don't. So it's as simple as that. But anyway, the rest of the characters are fine. You just don't really care for them. Like Kurt Russell, you're not rooting for because he was the former mayor of New York and he has a daughter. You're rooting for him because he's Kurt Russell and you like him in movies you like, you know?
Yeah, there's also this little thing where that he doesn't like his daughter's boyfriend for some reason. Like I don't know, they seem fine. I don't know why he's so overprotective about that.
Yeah, he's just overprotective because, well, that's the trope you do in movies. You have the overprotective father. It's like, yes, but give us a reason to, other than, do you not like the guy's frosted tips? Yeah, I guess it was getting into the later 2000s. Frosted tips were starting to die off. I guess maybe that's his reason. That's his reason. He didn't like the frosted tips anymore because they weren't a thing anymore. The only Guy Fieri could carry on that legacy.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's interesting the look of this film because it does feel like one of those teenage looking film movies aimed at teenagers. Like I thought that, like at one point I felt like I was watching Jumper 2007 for some reason. Like, I don't know.
Fergie shows up for no reason in this movie. It's like, wow, yeah, the Black Eyed Peas still going strong in 2025. Not.
No. Yeah.
So
Oh,
yeah,
God.
so you just have Fergie show up, and she doesn't really do anything. She's just there to sing, and then die. Oh yeah, I was at first when the ballroom scene happened, and the captain is about to die with all those people around him. I thought, suspicious we don't see Fergie, and then you see her walk up, tears in her face, like, I guess I'm dying now. It's like, oh wow, they actually had the balls to kill off Fergie. Cool.
Yeah, awesome. No, well, not awesome. Not awesome. She dies. I'm just saying, like, oh well, oh that's that, but okay.
Yeah, I guess she got a feeling.
Good one.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Yeah, fuck Black Eyed Peas. I'm kidding.
I mean, Black Eyed Peas. I mean, I like them at some points, but I don't know. They're inoffensive, but I can agree it was so overused during that time.
Well, yeah, they were the biggest thing in the 2000s. Well, I guess they weren't the biggest thing, but they were definitely no, let's be real. Got a Feeling is one of the biggest songs from that era. So, yeah. Richard Dreyfuss is in this movie.
Yeah, I like Richard Dreyfuss, but
they got a bigger boat. To forget.
Yeah. Good one. Richard Dreyfuss, I like him, but for some reason I'm starting to forget what his character was. I mean, I remember he was like an architect, so he knows a lot about how the boat is made, but did you remember something about what his character went through or something?
He was supposed to kill himself at the beginning, and then he notices the big wave, and then he doesn't. It's like, well, how would that stop him seeing the wave? If he's gonna kill himself, why doesn't he just kill himself? What does it matter that a wave is coming? But whatever.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure like the potential catastrophe is gonna be more painful than just drowning peacefully.
Which it's like, okay, he doesn't kill himself, then fine, maybe he has a new lease on life. Well, then later on he's forced with having to kill Freddy Rodriguez's character by like getting him off, like, because Josh Lucas makes the decision to be like, all right, we can't pull him up, let him go, and so then he kicks him, and Freddy Rodriguez fucking dies in the elevator shaft, and It's like,
which was a brutal death, I will
yeah,
say.
it
Like
was
the way
pretty
he
awesome.
falls into that. Yeah.
Pretty awesome for PG-13. And it's like, okay, that actually gives a very interesting look into this. It's like, okay, he was gonna kill himself, but now he's responsible for someone else dying. And then that doesn't really play into his character at all. But then he meets what's her name? Elena, who is friends with
Mhm.
Freddy Rodriguez, and they befriend each other. It's like, okay, there could be something interesting happening here. And then Elena dies for no reason, and that doesn't really do anything for Richard Dreyfuss's character. So yeah, you're introducing all these interesting angles for Richard Dreyfuss to have a really interesting character where he was going to kill
Mhm.
himself, but then he doesn't. He then causes the death of somebody, even though he was going to kill himself, and then he causes somebody
Yeah.
else to die, and then he causes somebody else to die.
Mhm.
It's like you have these really interesting setups for really interesting character development, and they don't do anything with it. They're just
Yeah,
happen.
they don't follow up on it. Maybe that's why I'm starting to forget a lot because they didn't do a lot with him. Like they introduced all these things, but they never follow up on the idea
Yeah.
because they had to move on with the next set piece and stuff.
Yeah, and I guess it has to do with the fact that this movie's 98 minutes long. It is the shortest Poseidon Adventure movie,
Yeah,
which,
it is. Yeah,
thank
it is the
God,
shortest.
it was
I
actually
mean,
quite a
after
breeze
what?
to get through.
Yeah, I mean, after watching the awful 3-hour miniseries, this was great. That this was shorter, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not asking it for be longer, but that it was paced better between showcasing the effects and also showing better the characters. That's what
Yeah,
I will say.
but like for an average Hollywood schlocky movie, I've seen worse. It actually did have sequences I liked, like we said, the elevator shaft scene. Holy shit, that was actually very tense, and it actually ended pretty brutally. Like it wasn't one of those like, oh, it's tense, but then everybody makes it out okay. It's like, no, Freddy Rodriguez fucking falls to the bottom, gets impaled by those spikes at the bottom, and then a flaming elevator fucking falls
Yeah,
on
like
him. It's like not
yeah,
only is it a death, it is a brutal fucking death. It was like, okay, 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 there's something
okay.
interesting here. And then I really like the sequence when fucking Josh Lucas takes the fire hose and then
Hmm.
dives into the flaming water,
Yeah, like
goes under the water and goes to the other side and creates a cross line for Kurt Russell and his daughter to get across. It's like, okay, that was a really cool scene. It
yeah,
might
that was it. That was actually an ingenious move. I'll give him that.
Yeah, it was. I might be looking far too into this, like maybe looking a bit too far into it. But like, is that supposed to be a bit of a cheeky nod towards the original movie when Gene Hackman falls into the flaming water and instantly dies, whereas here he dives into the flaming water and is fine? It's like, oh, look at us, we're better. Again, I don't think I got that the first time. I'm just rethinking about it now and thinking, is that what
Mhm.
they were
Yeah.
going for? Probably not, but if they did, that's hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, like I'm pretty sure you can die from flaming water, right? So
Well,
maybe he
yeah, it's fire. Fire's bad.
pretty much.
um, yeah. There's other sequences I'm trying to remember. Like,
I think how Kurt Russell died, I think was
mm,
also brutal as well because
yeah,
he's trying to open that hatch and he's almost drowning and stuff and it really feels awful seeing him like he's almost out of breath like
yeah.
he's already drowning like holy shit
Oh yeah. The
that's horrifying.
the sound effects he's making while underwater are actually really haunting. Yeah, I can imagine them right now. Like I'm remembering what they sound like. It was really fucking brutal. So yeah, like there's enough in this movie that it is interesting to me where I'm like, wow, this was not totally worthless. This actually had aspects that I didn't hate. And even better, it continues the tradition of just once they're saved, that's it. There's no falling action. It just ends there. And also, I'll give this movie this. There is a bit of unintentional finality with it because in this movie, the ship does sink. Like, at the
Yeah,
very end, the ship goes under the water, never to be seen again. And
just like the book.
just like the book. That's interesting that you brought that up. I saw it more so as a kind of an unintentional finale for this Poseidon Adventure franchise, where like, we haven't had another Poseidon Adventure movie in years since then. Not that I've seen, not that I've heard
Nope.
that we're getting another one. So it's kind of like this finality of being like, we've told all the different versions we can. What else is there to go through with this concept, So just
Yeah.
leave it at the bottom of the ocean where it belongs.
Yeah, because because I do agree. There's not a lot you can do from there on. I mean, you could try, but I don't think you can reach the heights of the original
No.
or even of this remake, because those were made in a different time where when we look upon them, we can appreciate them now. So I'm not sure how exactly you can do it on our current modern filmmaking or in their philosophies at this point.
Yeah, first off, it would be bad because it's a remake, and a lot of modern remakes are bad. Occasionally you get one that does stand out, like Dune, for example. Sure. But that's because
Yeah.
that is the vision. That is a vision of an auteur, somebody who has something to say about somebody that has something to say. Denis Villeneuve is clearly a director who has a vision, who has something to say when it comes to movies. So it's like, yeah, I entrust him with remaking something that had a rough go about the first time it happened.
Yeah, especially I mean, after all, he made Blade Run that he made the sequel to Blade Runner, so something that he didn't wasn't involved in the original, but he knew well that source material to do a really well made sequel.
But with the Poseidon Adventure, I can't really imagine somebody taking on this concept and being able to play around with it the way that someone like Villeneuve could, or the way somebody like Robert Edgers could with Nosferatu. I feel like it would just be a standard. They would just take somebody who's just there for a paycheck, and they would just do that. And because it's modern day, we're still in modern day, I don't see it being fun. I see it being kind of painful. Like, the reason I'm able to forgive the 70s sequel and the 2006 one is because they're over 20 years old at this point. Those eras are long gone. The 2000s is over. The 70s is over. We can look back on those eras with nostalgia / as being charming. We can see those eras as being charming because they are charming looking back. Obviously, I've said this before. I am far more likely to forgive a bad movie from way back in the day than I am a bad movie from nowadays. Now, and I also follow that up with, there are clearly exceptions. Clearly, there are always going to be exceptions. I'm always going to find movies from back in the day that I think are absolute fucking dog shit, and I think there's nothing redeeming about them. And sometimes I'll find a bad movie from modern times that I think is quirky and hilarious in the best way possible. But I'm saying, on average, I am more likely to forgive a bad product from back in the day than I am a bad product from nowadays. And if they made a Poseidon Adventure in the 2020s and they didn't give it to somebody who has a vision like Edgers or Villeneuve, it's gonna really falter pretty badly. I can see it being worse than the miniseries, and that's a tall order already.
Yeah, because the miniseries was just boring. I don't know how you can make it worse than boring.
Yeah, so.
Which begs the question: how likely do you think that somebody in Hollywood will want to make a Poseidon Adventure remake during this era?
That depends. Cause like, I'm trying to think. Yeah, because they've been exhausting so many previous IPs. It's only a matter of time before they get to Poseidon Adventure. Like it would, if it's not going to happen anytime soon, it probably will happen someday, because judging by statistics, they're going to run out of something that they're going to have to get to the Poseidon Adventure.
Exactly. Just like many studios like Disney are already running out of their precious source materials. They'll probably have to deal with the bad ones from that era.
I mean, maybe. It depends on how lucratively nostalgic they are. The reason we haven't gotten a Black Cauldron live action remake is because the people who actually like it are a very, very small minority of people. of the people who've actually seen it. Yeah, well, so the amount of people who've actually seen the Black Cauldron is a very small amount of people anyway, because Disney has been burying that movie for 40 years at this point. Literally 40 years, because it's 2025, 40 years since 1985. So the amount of people who know about it are smaller than the amount of people who know like what Aladdin or Beauty and the Beast are. But then within that small minority is an even smaller minority of people who actually like the Black Cauldron, because the people who've actually seen it fucking hate it. You know, like there's a lot of people who've seen the Black Cauldron and are just like, this is the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen. Which, I mean, I'm not going to say it's a great film, but the biggest piece of shit Disney's ever made? Yeah, right, dude. Yeah, fucking right.
Yeah, like no.
So what I'm saying is, I think it's going to be a long time before we see Disney do anything with the Black Cauldron. But yeah, you're right. They've already moved on to stuff like Moana and Lilo and Stitch. So it's like, I don't know. They're running low on stuff. I mean, yeah, who owns the rights to Poseidon Adventure now?
Yeah, it's interesting because the original film was made by 20th Century Fox, which is owned by Disney, but the sequel, the direct sequel, was made by Warner Brothers. So
you know what? I guess it would be apt. Maybe Disney would do something with them, but I don't know. I just don't see it because, again, Disney will do anything. Disney will do anything to avoid doing something for the Muppets. You know, like they will.
Yeah.
It's gonna take something huge for them to actually do anything for the Muppets. Like, yes, they do series, they do YouTube videos, they have the Muppets make cameos on Amphibia and Big City Greens, but that's all they'll do. That's all they've ever done. It's been well over 10 years since the last Muppet movie, and we haven't seen them do anything movie-wise. They'll do literally anything to avoid doing something for the Muppets. It's painful.
They're getting rid of the Muppet attraction from MGM. So yeah, there's that also.
So that's what I'm saying is, like, Disney will just bend over backwards for anything, for, like, you know, obviously stuff like the MCU or Star Wars. They'll do anything for, well, they won't do anything for Star Wars. They won't release the fucking theatrical cuts on nicer quality. For some reason, they'll put $200 million into fucking the next bullshit Disney Plus series that nobody likes, but I don't know, they won't do the one thing people want. I don't know. It's bizarre what Disney does. But what I'm saying is they have their very special series that they do stuff for. And I don't see Poseidon Adventure being at the top of their list. So I think maybe Poseidon Adventure is safe from getting a bad remake, but I mean, time will only tell if we ever see another Poseidon Adventure movie ever again.
Yeah, like now that I think about it, like when I was trying to search for Poseidon Adventure, it wasn't streaming in anywhere. Like I think it was in Prime Video, but it was for buy and rent. But you can literally, it's not streaming anywhere. So it's not like Hollywood knows it exists so far.
Yeah.
So at least the current
obviously, I watched the Poseidon Adventure on my DVD. Beyond the Poseidon Adventure, I found on Plex, which is a Tubi-like series.
Yeah,
Tubi-like streaming service. Where
I actually found the Beyond the Poseidon Adventure on Dailymotion. The full movie is there for some reason.
Oh, that's awesome. And then I did find the miniseries on Prime, which was cool. It was for free on Prime. And then I found Poseidon, the 2006 movie. Well, not anywhere legit. I'll just say that.
Well, I saw that you can rent it on Max actually, so because it's a Warner Brothers production, so yeah.
Wait, really? Poseidon, the
2006 remake.
Was it on Max this whole time?
Well, not sure if it was streaming on Max. All I know it was you can rent it from Max. Is what I know.
You can rent it from Wait, rent? You can rent stuff on Max?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how it works. Maybe I got confused. I don't know.
Yeah, no, because Max is a service. You know, it's like Disney Plus. You don't rent stuff on there. It's either there or it isn't. But like,
maybe I got confused. Maybe it was streaming on Max in my country.
I looked it up on Max. Well, at least here in America, I looked it up on Max. I typed in Poseidon. It did not show up. Aquaman 2 showed up, but not Poseidon 2006. Yeah, so clearly these movies are starting to get forgotten by Hollywood, which is a shame, but I mean, if we were able to find them, I'm sure other people will be able to find them. So I'm not
Yeah.
too worried about people not being able to find. I mean, I'd rather people watch the original and then maybe if they're super curious, check out Beyond the Poseidon Adventure in Poseidon 2006. Maybe don't watch the miniseries because you'll just be bored out of your mind. And considering the attention spans of a lot of modern kids, I don't think they'll be able to sit through a 3-hour miniseries. So, especially a bad one.
Yeah. I will say this: if you're a fan of Leslie Nielsen, it's worth checking out the original. That's what I'll say. Maybe you'll find something special there.
Totally. As for the 2006 one, I'll just finish this up by saying I think it has a Blu-ray release, so I'd like to add it to the collection, much like Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. Not anytime soon. I'm not going to go out of my way to find it, but if I ever come across it, I wouldn't mind adding it to the collection. But again, if I never add it to the collection, I'm not going to lose sleep at night.
Yeah. As for myself, I wouldn't chase it on DVD or Blu-ray technically, but if I see it like on streaming at some point, I might give it a watch, like a good nostalgic run for just the experience of experiencing the entire Poseidon Adventure franchise. But if I want to revisit Poseidon Adventure, I'll definitely just revisit the original and maybe the sequel. The 2006 remake was decent, but it's not. I don't think I'm really thinking about it too often as the original. Is what I'm thinking.
So yeah. That we did it. We talked about 4 movies that nobody cares about. The Poseidon Adventure franchise.
Hell yeah. This was a very fun adventure, you might say.
Oh man, yeah. So all right, PSI, my voice is starting to go, and I still have yet to scream at the Super Bowl. So scream at the TV playing the Super Bowl. So why don't we wrap this up? Why don't you shout out your stuff? Where can people find you?
Of course, man. You can guys find me on my YouTube channel. Lately, I've been doing song covers of many songs from video games and movies, but I'm actually going to return making video reviews, so look forward to that. I'm actually going to rebrand a little bit my channel, so I hope you look forward for that. You can also follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky. I mostly talk about video games and stuff, but I do talk about movies from time to time, and follow me on my Letterboxd if you're interested in more of my movie opinions. I do have a lot of opinions, buried and strange, but I do have good opinions. So if you're interested in knowing more about my thoughts, more of my thoughts on not only Poseidon Adventure, but other movies of different genres like comedy and such, you can follow me there, and I'll be glad to know you more
from the follow.
Yeah.
All right, your links will be in the description down below. Thank you for coming on to talk about the Poseidon Adventures. Yeah, man, my voice is starting to go, and I still need to watch the Super Bowl. We're recording this the day of the Super Bowl, and everybody knows who won already. We don't, but we'll know eventually. So,
Drake, I hate you like I'm young.
Hopefully.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Cheers, everybody. See you next time.
Thank you.